Brady Quinn is on the phone, Fox Sports analyst. And before we get to Brady, I want to just reiterate the news out of Indianapolis, which is that NFL Media's Ian Rappaport reporting that Jameis Winston had extra medical tests Thursday to look at a throwing-related nerve issue that is likely minor.
I'm just telling you, the pitching, they're going to do more in the way of inspection.
I don't think you're wrong. And Brady Quinn, I want to ask you right off the top, what does this sound like to you?
Well, first off, thanks for having me on, guys. And Coach Newhouse, I'd say I'm right there with you. I think the pitching is going to play a part in that. Obviously, it's a lot of wear and tear on the shoulder. Got two definitely different styles of throwing motions. For anyone out there who's ever played baseball and football, it's completely different. So it's going to stress your arm and your shoulder in different ways. And, you know, you got to trust these teams have to do their due diligence to make sure this isn't going to be an issue a few years from now, being the starter or being the face of a franchise that drafts him in the first round. And all of a sudden you have these early arm issues, especially with your shoulder this early in his career.
Brady, I heard that you had an opinion that maybe the top guys shouldn't throw at the combine because it's such an unfamiliar situation. You're throwing to guys that you're not used to throwing to. What is your take on that?
Well, Coach, to be honest with you, I actually compare it to something my wife used to do. I think the combine is more similar to, she was an Olympic gymnast. And I actually think the combine is more similar to the preparation it takes going into performing in gymnastics than it does really in football. You know, to me, I think a lot of the things that are displayed at the combine, yes, they're a little bit involved, but again, it's nowhere close to what it takes to be a quarterback. You know, I've never really seen any sort of correlation between the two, obviously at the level playing field to compare guys. But, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, but, you know, I think coaches probably get more done in the private workouts that they have with these players. And even in the pro days, when players now can put on helmets and shoulder pads and show a variety of throws, a much longer period of time for them to be evaluated by every team. And again, they're throwing to familiar guys. So I think a quarterback's going to probably be a little more confident in anticipating throws and demonstrating things that are closer to what he's going to be doing on the field than say at the combine.
But the competitor in you has to want to go there and say, "Hey, I'll throw against anybody." What do you say to that competitive side of your makeup?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, I go back to when I was coming out of the draft. And, you know, I had actually had a torn PCL coming out of a bowl game, the Sugar Bowl, and I was trying to keep it under reps. I knew I didn't feel fully physically healthy enough to do anything really at the combine. And one of the guys had talked me into just doing the bench press while I was there because I was trying to wait for my pro day. So, I mean, obviously that doesn't involve anything with your lower body, and I ended up benching, which obviously is completely meaningless for a quarterback. But to your
Thank goodness for me.
It's really my competitive spirit.
We had Mercedes Lewis in here earlier, Brady Quinn. This is Susie Schuster in for Rich Eisen on the Rich Eisen Show. And Mercedes was talking about the anxiety that he felt at the combine. How did you feel when you were going through it yourself?
Well, yeah, you have a ton of anxiety. I mean, you don't know what to expect. You're kind of on your toes. It's almost like going into some of your final exams with those professors who tend to ask you questions where they're trying to trick you sometimes, or maybe you don't know if he is trying to trick you. It's just being straightforward. So a lot of times, you know, you just didn't feel like you could ever fully be comfortable. You tried to be yourself, but also in the back of your mind, you're wondering, you know, am I being the guy that they're looking for? You know, I remember sitting down with Coach Gary Kubiak at the time, who was the head coach of the Houston Texans, and you know, he had said to me and leaned across the table and said, "Hey, my job's on the line. You know, you're going to be able to save my job. You're going to be able to come over here and be the guy." And I believe that. My answer was yes with everything in my heart. But at the same time, as a 22-year-old guy coming out in the NFL, you're sitting there thinking to yourself, man, this is a tough question to ask. I mean, this guy's asking me about his job security for his family, his livelihood, and everything else, as well as the rest of the staff. And it's something that's hard to be, you know, hard to answer necessarily, to be put on the spot in a moment like that, especially when, you know, you're being asked the majority of football questions, not necessarily stuff about a guy's job security.
Brady, I told Susie about our story on draft day. Obviously, this had a happy ending for you as you were a first-round pick to Cleveland. I was on the phone with you from the war room in Baltimore. We were getting ready to pick you, and you were a gung-ho, ready to be a Raven, and all of a sudden, all hell broke loose, and you're off to Cleveland. Take us through that, those moments in the green room.
Well, I mean, you talk about, you know, a turn in emotions and feeling as though, you know, Cleveland had taken Joe Thomas at the #3 pick. And, you know, again, you talk about the competitive spirit. Well, in my mind, every team that was passing, you know, I was just checking them off on the list. There was someone that I was targeting, excited to play against and all that. So, you know, when Baltimore decided to trade up for the 23rd pick, and I was talking to you guys on the phone. I mean, I was ecstatic. I mean, you're talking about a team with a great defense, a great coaching staff, all kinds of weapons. So,
and a great quarterback coach, right?
What's that?
And a great quarterback coach, right?
Or somewhat overrated. I mean, it could go either way. Could go either way. I'm just saying.
So I was excited about the opportunity, but then obviously the turn of emotions with then being drafted by your hometown team, then trading up to get you, that was kind of tough to top and kind of a dream come true, really, for my family as well, because they're so close and were able to come up and be a part of the games there in Cleveland.
Brady Quinn joining us on the Rich Eisen Show. Brady, it's the first year ever that there's a Veterans Combine. It's coming up on March 22nd in Arizona. Are you ready to lace them up again?
I'm still trying to figure that out. When I initially had called the NFL to kind of research about what it was about, they had told me it was really for guys who were only a year or two in the league who maybe weren't able to go to the Combine initially or weren't that well known. They wanted to give them an opportunity to, then test in front of the teams and so forth and get looked at. That was the initial response I got. I'm still trying to kind of search through and see if that's the case or if it's more for older guys or veteran guys who would want an opportunity. But again, there's the opportunity for workouts and things like that before that even takes place. So obviously down the road, you kind of have to wait and see how everything plays out.
Now, it kind of sounds like you still want to play.
Oh, he's got the hunger.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I think and Coach, tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it ever goes away. I think it's your body that tells you otherwise. But for me, I still feel good. I feel mentally as good as I've ever felt about the game of football. So it's hard to want to ever turn away from the game and get away from it.
I want to mention the Third and Goal Foundation, established by you and your wife, making a difference in the lives of veterans across the country, honoring our nation's heroes through their work with the Third and Goal Foundation. And congratulations on doing that. That's incredible work that you're doing.
Yeah, thanks so much, Suze. I mean, it really started off with my dad. He was a Marine in Vietnam, and he's now a home builder. So we came up with the idea in 2010 to help make homes handicap accessible for wounded veterans coming back from combat and even older veterans who were dealing with other sorts of debilitating injuries. So at this point, we're trying to work nationwide to help out all those who are in need and just give them thanks for the sacrifices that they've made for our country so we can live the lives that we do.
Well, we really appreciate your time, Brady Quinn. Thank you for joining us here on The Rich Eisen Show, and please come back whenever you want.
Good luck to you, pal.
I definitely will. Thanks, Susie. Thanks, Coach Eisen.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.